Does any of this show?
No. What is your name?
Frank Stores.
And who are you with?
We have a company called Rural Community Solutions.
Great. And what would you like to talk about today?
Well, one thing I want you to do every morning when you first wake up is think about the potentials that you have during that day. So think of it this way: is when you think of something to do, you think of a particle, a one thing to do. Now, I want you to change how you view the day into view it as an arc of potentiality. And that arc of potentiality is just like an arch right in front of you. Every point along that arch is a particle, a solution, a point you can do of what's going to be happening. So when you think about your day of what can happen, think about any potential expectation along that arch, and you can have your day turn out in any way that you want to do it. But you have to think about where you want to focus your attention on that arch of potentiality.
So is it like I'm manifesting or creating physical things with my thoughts?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the way the brain works. You visualize your outcome, and then you back up from the outcomes that you want, and you visualize those into your actions. What actions are going to get you the outcomes? We call it driving your car. C plus A equals R. You look at your circumstances. So you wake up, you look at your circumstances during the day, and then you pick out your results that you want during that day along the arc. And then from those results, because every result has an action, specific action to get you to that result, you look at that action and then you take steps to get you to that result. Does it happen overnight? It can, but it takes practice to get your mind to be thinking in steps to get the results that you want. But before you get your results, you have to visualize your results and then pick your actions to get you to where you want to go.
So it's not like magic, but do you think there is any magic in quantum thinking?
I don't think it's magic. I think that's the way we were created, and we are just now discovering how to use how we were created. So that's the way I define science anyway, is God created everything. What we're doing is uncovering God's creation.
I love that. Because sometimes I think about things and then they do happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, nothing happens without a thought. I mean, you can do two things. You can do either the world can be created with you, or the world can be created because of you. And if you're simultaneously letting the world create and unfold, and you're not interacting with it, then you just get whatever the world throws at you. But you can control what the world throws at you by creating the world that you want.
What about when other people are creating too, and then I'm colliding with them?
You don't really collide. You have to intersect with them on that. But everybody comes in front of you for a reason. And because of that you have to look at them in front of you as the reason for your next step.
So there are no coincidences?
No. It's all synchronicity.
So could you just describe synchronicity a little bit more for me?
Synchronicity, to me anyway, is the universe and our world happening because of what we do. It happens simultaneously with what we do. So that a coincidence is a book falling off the shelf and you wanting to read that. Well, I don't look at that as a coincidence. I look at that as God telling me I need to do this. That's synchronicity to me.
So you believe in God?
Absolutely.
Okay. So God, describe God to me.
God is all. God is I am. I am that I am. And that's how God is. And so that's why when we do affirmations, we say I am statements, because I am is the most powerful two words that you can use in the world. I am describes who you are. So when when people asked who God was and God responded, I am that I am, he was saying, I am. And so when you say, I am incredible, I am wonderful, I am so intellectual, I am the best person for this job, it is uncovering and it's telling you who you are. And we need to voice that more, because 75% of the people go around going, I'm no good, I'm not this. I am sick. I am this. I am that. And it's all negative.
And then we become sick?
And that's what you become.
But then if we think positively and believe that we can do a lot, we can?
Yes. You can do whatever you believe you can do.
It's like magic.
If you want to unfold it that way, it is.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. I mean, God has created the magical world. We just have to use it.
So, what do you do for a living, Frank?
What do I do for a living?
Mm-hmm.
I help communities with their solutions on how they can grow and become the best community and the best community for the people that live within that community.
What's your biggest obstacle in helping the community folks?
Getting people to find me.
When they do find you, what is the biggest obstacle that you repeatedly are running into with the communities?
Right now, the communities are in such great wanting to find answers that they are starting to understand. I mean, I've been in this business for more than 30 years. Communities are just now catching up with my thought process of how they can grow and how the experiences that they have created over the course of the lifetime of that community has created the circumstances. Now they are starting to understand how their circumstances and how their actions are creating their future. And so what we teach them more is starting to come into economic development and rural development better and more mainstream than it has been what we say woo-woo type of stuff.
Right. So you believe in the law of attraction?
Well, absolutely. Absolutely.
Could you tell me more about that?
What the law of attraction to me is as you think, you become.
I believe that.
As you think, you become. And so the more that you think you are, this is why I am statements. I am as you think. I am, you become what you want to be. And that's why we teach entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs need to have this type of mindset. And as a community, as an entrepreneur, and having entrepreneurial thinking, they need to think more like an entrepreneur. Because if they start to think like an entrepreneur, if a community starts to think like an entrepreneur, they're going to attract entrepreneurs. Because like attracts like on there. This is why you wake up in the morning, you say, am I going to be happy? You have two choices. One, yes, I'm going to be happy. Two, no, I don't want to be happy. Well, if you're not happy and you say, how can I be happy? Then you make decisions, make actions of how you're going to make happy. Some people wake up in the morning and go, do I want to be happy? And they say, no, I don't want to be happy. And we call them crap magnets because crap attracts crap. And it's how you think you will attract. And so when communities start thinking entrepreneurial, they attract entrepreneurs.
What's the number 8? 8 minutes.
It's called editing. You can edit it down.
We'll edit it out. We're just trying to be quiet and bring
I know how to do that.
We're at 8 minutes.
So
and
Alex
22
does
seconds.
think that 8 is a magic number, and he was 8 pounds, 8 ounces, born at like 8/18,
Oh,
August 8th.
so numerology. 88888,
I do believe
yeah.
in. Do you see coincidence? We don't necessarily have to use this, but I'm just going to ask you a few questions.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever see repetitive numerological sequences repeated?
Oh, I think they're fun. Yeah, I try and find them on a digital clock all the time.
But do you ever like keep seeing the same numbers and over and over?
If I do, it's the triple ones.
And what does 111 mean
That the world is unfolding and good things are going to be happening to you.
for you?
Yes.
I see 37.
Yeah.
I look at the clock and it's 9:37 or different 37s popping up.
Yeah. I follow on Instagram. I follow an account called the Law of Attraction, and they post what numerology numbers mean, like the three
Yes.
ones or the 4
Yes.
ones or whatever. That's
It's
really
kind of
kind of
fun.
fun. Yeah,
It is.
yeah, it really is. And so if you set your expectations of what to look for, you're going to find your expectation. And so if you set your expectations for the morning, what you want to find during that day, that's what you will find. I mean, whenever we do a workshop, we always ask people, what do you expect out of this workshop? Because once you voice your expectation, you're going to look for what you want. This is why when you buy a specific car, you've never seen them around town before, but now when you're looking for a car or you buy that car, you all of a sudden start to see everybody has that car. It's because you're looking for your expectations.
So, what is an entrepreneur?
An entrepreneur is somebody that likes to build something. So entrepreneurial thinking is creative. They take risks, controlled risks. Entrepreneurs are not. When you describe an entrepreneur, they always say, "Well, an entrepreneur is a risk taker." They are, but a true entrepreneur is a controlled risk taker. They'll go out on a limb. They'll take their risk, but they mitigate that risk as they go out there on there. And so communities have to start thinking like that. Creatively, how do we take this and create something that somebody wants? So an entrepreneur creates an environment that creates things that people need.
So, let's say in Colorado, a small town is dying, and then they decide to start growing hemp because they can create huge sums of money and employ a lot of people around planting hemp. So is that an example of an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. Sure it is. And it's taking advantage of the environment and it's taking advantage of what people need.
Okay. So what, last year, did you find any small community where they started thinking like an entrepreneur and then became more successful?
We have a community that we use in Ord, Nebraska, and Don Mackey has worked with Ord, Nebraska for the last 20 years. And Ord started out with one single person moving back, and he was an attorney, and he grew up there, and he moved back, and he looked around, and he said, "This isn't the town I grew up in." He said, two things are going to happen. Either I'm going to stay and the town's going to change, or I'm leaving. And he decided to stay and make the town change. And it took him about 7 years to get the town to change their attitude. Change in communities don't happen overnight. And you have to commit, the town has to commit to work with us. They have to commit for a long-term process. It's not a one and done thing, because that's not good for my reputation. One and done is not good, because we can't go in and change a culture in one workshop on there. So they have to commit to a long-term process. And long-term, I mean 2 or 3 years, to where we're going to work with them as we start to change their culture. And that's what Ord, Nebraska did. And Ord started out in the late 90s, and they have never recovered from the farm crisis. And it's a town of 2,100 people. And since 1999 till last year, 2018, they have created investments. They've created $750,000 worth of investments in housing. Last year, they just built a $1.8 million health center within that. They did a multi-million-dollar bond issue about 5 years ago for their hospital. They turned around the 30 to 38-year-olds population demographics. They turned that around they grew by 58% in the young people. That's almost unheard of.
That's incredible.
In a rural area like that. Young people are not attracted to a rural area like that.
Why do you think that happened?
Because of their attitude. Turned them around from we're a poor town, poor rural community to I can do this, and we're going to rebuild it. And so then they created a town that would attract youth. So what type of amenities, what type of place does a 30 to young families, when you want to become a family-friendly community, which we do, we build family-friendly, youth-centered, youth-focused communities. And so as what family-friendly community would look like? What would you want your family to
Good schools.
create? Good schools is always the top of the list when a family moves into a community.
Affordable housing.
They want affordable housing. Well, yes, they want affordable housing. And notice you're not saying I want a good job, because an entrepreneurial community will attract an entrepreneur that can create or bring their own job. And so right now, what they're looking for is broadband. Do you have connectivity? Do you have the internet capability for me to sit in my house and I can do global work? And so connectivity in rural America is as important as electrification was back in the 20s to rural America on there. And so we really need to build up on there, because people are taking their jobs with them. They're not looking for jobs. So the day and age of factories, the day and age of recruiting 100 to 150 employee manufacturing firms, that's pretty much dead. And so an entrepreneurial community will attract people instead of companies.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So people that can work from their computer with a phone and a computer, I can work from anywhere.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know I can.
And people are looking at that. Telecommuters, Gallup has some information out of, are you engaged in your work? People that work from home 2 or 3 days a week are 35% more engaged in their work when they can telecommute. So they'll go in, they'll keep a corporation, they'll work for a corporation, but they'll work from home for about 3 days a week. Go into the corporation 2 days a week just to touch base and to keep grounded. But they're 35% more engaged in their work than if they just had to go and commute to that.
So they're more productive.
They're more productive. And so companies really need to get on board. So we live in Atlantic, Iowa, which is right in southwest Iowa. If Des Moines, Iowa, Omaha, and Kansas City wake up and the large businesses such as Principal or Mutual of Omaha or TD Ameritrade, which they're moving out of Omaha here, or the big firms in Kansas City, we don't need to build big inner city commuting patterns. We can control our commutes and our traffic by allowing people to work from their homes. And so here we are right in the middle of southwest Iowa, right in the middle of a triangle of hub of economic opportunity, that if those businesses would let their people telecommute and pick where they wanted to live, then we could reduce traffic, we could increase engagement within communities and having more productive employees.
And also, the cost of living must be lower in Atlantic.
It is. The housing costs would be lower. Food costs, of course, across the board, they're about the same. Gas costs are about the same.
But if I don't have to go into the office 3
Right.
days a week, I'm saving quite a bit of wear and tear on my vehicle.
Yep. And
What a great
transportation-
idea.
And transportation costs, yeah.
This example of my son-in-law is working for a company in Minneapolis, and he goes there once a month. And the rest of the time, he has a home office, and he's making over $150,000 a year.
Mhm.
He does travel, but he rarely goes in to answer to his boss, because his boss knows he almost went to the Olympics as a swimmer, and he knows how to practice.
Yeah. Well, our one of our school systems out where we live had a enrollment of about 600 students that's system wide from K through 12, which isn't a very big school district. So they were really looking at, are we going to consolidate even greater, more on there? And the superintendent looked around and said, no, here's an idea we can use. They created or recruited an online school to their school district. The online school is a part of their school district. The online school now in its 5th or 6th year has 600 and some students in the online school serving the state of Iowa.
Wow.
So your example of an Olympic swimmer, we have examples of child stars that travel the world, and
Actors?
actors, actresses, athletes, they're practicing for the Olympics. Or on the other spectrum, kids that just can't handle high school anymore or can't socialize in that. So they stay home and they're on online school, but they're part of that school district. So they doubled their enrollment, just as if they are students at that school district, because of our telecommunications.
So the online school, so kids could come from Los Angeles to be in my movie and join that online school rather than having a tutor, possibly?
Yeah.
I want to know more about that. Well, let me see you after this. That's a good idea.
They could, and they have teachers. I mean, they have classes every day And they have teachers that are available to them every day. They have a school counselor, and the teachers are virtual also. So there's teachers all around the state teaching students all around the state. It's not a place-based school system.
Okay, that's genius.
Yeah.
How interesting you are, Mr. Spillers. Thank you so much for your time today. Will you join us again later?
Absolutely.
I hope so. You're a pool of knowledge. Thank you so much.